Hi, this is Dame Pacey with WatchersOnTheWall.com. I'm here to do your weekly brush-up of last week's episode from Game of Thrones, Episode 2, The House of Black and White. Now last time I had spoilers interspersed throughout the video. This time I'm only going to have them on the end, and you'll have a big warning beforehand, so all you unbent, unbroken, and unsullied watchers can watch the whole video up to the spoilers. Now let's get started. So we start with Arya approaching Braavos, and the Titan of Braavos is there over the harbor. And it's amazing. I love the graphics. They did a great job. Now, most Game of Thrones watchers are smarter than the average bear, or at least certainly more educated than the average bear. And you probably already know that it's based on the Colossus of Rhodes, which was a real statue over a harbor in ancient Greece. So Arya is finally in Braavos and enjoying the sights and scenes, and she finally approaches the House of Black and White. And it's this freestanding, very intimidating building in the middle of the harbor or somewhere. It's just isolated. But anyway, it's intimidating, and that's what I guess they needed. So she knocks on the door, and she gets rejected. Poor Arya, she sat there for like a day, two, I don't know. She sat through the weather, and she was repeating her much shortened, kill list. And after a while, I thought the poor child was having a breakdown. So we jump from Braavos to see Brienne and Pod again entering an inn, and the only thing missing was my beloved hot pie. But seriously, they're there eating dinner, and Pod's getting the eye on one of the cute waitresses, and who does he spot but Littlefinger and Sansa, and I almost pooped my pants. I kid you not. I was just like, finally, intersection. Pod's like, oh, there's 10 guys over there, and Brienne's like, okay, well, I still have to do it, and she marches over there. And this was not going to go well. I mean, who in their right mind didn't think that Littlefinger was going to manipulate Brienne? Because that's what he does. He manipulates. So she's there trying to pledge herself to Sansa, and Sansa tells her to go. She says, you should go. She doesn't say no. I think that's important.
No, stop!
So from Brienne and Pod's hot pursuit of Sansa and Littlefinger, we go to King's Landing, where we find Cersei and Jaime opening a box from Dorne that just so happens to have a little snake in it with a little necklace that Myrcella used to wear around her neck. Now obviously it's a threat, but she's just got to guilt Jaime, doesn't she? She just manipulates him so well, so now all of a sudden, after ignoring his kids and his responsibilities for all these years, now he's going to be a good papa. He's going to jump right in there. Well, it's because she guilted the crap out of him. Anyway, so now he's going to be Dad of the Year and sneak into Dorne and try to get Myrcella out. So then we jump to the guy he intends to take with him, which is Bronn, our favorite sellsword. And he is having a lovely stroll along the beach with Lawless Stokeworth, his soon-to-be wife. What was funny about this scene, two things. The Stokeworth castle looked massive. It was bigger than the Red Keep, I think. That made no sense. And then Lawless, the look on her face when she sees Jaime and she gets introduced to him, she's like, oh yeah. And then Bronn just sends her away, and she's like, the look on her face was priceless. I tell you, priceless. So I guess Jaime's going to drag Bronn off to Dorne, and the incentive is, oh, you're not going to get Lawless. I've already taken her away from you and given her to somebody else, but you'll get somebody better if you live. And speaking of Dorne, we finally get to go there, and we get to see the beautiful Dorne filmed in the Alcázar in España, and we get to see Ellaria just hating on Myrcella. She's down there with her betrothed, and Ellaria's begging Prince Doran. He is a very cautious individual, as you can tell. He's not going to jump right into war, and he's not the kind of person that tortures little girls. And that's exactly what Oberyn said. So they were of like mind. As fiery as Oberyn was, he's not up to, child killing and child torture. However, Ellaria has no such compunction. I really loved Alexander Siddig. He just did a great job. I love the way he mimicked Oberyn's accent. And I think what he did was you could see the seething underneath, but as also, he's a grown-up. He's the only grown-up in the room, basically. So we jump across the sea, and we see Daario and Grey Worm in the streets of Meereen looking for the Sons of the Harpy. Now, the Sons of the Harpy are a great metaphor for what we've been dealing with in American culture, which is we invaded Iraq, and then we had all this rebellion from within. They do catch a Son of the Harpy, and they take him to Dany, and they have a very fascinating discussion around the table about why would a non-slave holding person want to fight on behalf of the masters. So there's all kinds of really interesting socio-political economic things going on in this scene. The slave and his daughter Zolarak both fighting, one another, and then Barristan stepping in and saying, have a trial. When you've got all these conflicting forces in society, the fairest thing to do is to have a trial. And then it becomes the law and not you laying down an edict or them getting to decide. It's a trial. It's the rule of law, which is also, I find, absolutely fascinating because Dany says the law is the law. And that's the rule of law, which I did not expect to see here in this story at all. And I think it might be a little bit of D&D imposing their modern sensibility on the story, because I don't think George had or will have anything like the rule of law showing up in Westeros or anywhere in his world. So Barristan convinces Dany, after everybody else has gone from the small council, by telling her about her father's madness and how he used to issue edicts and give justice according to what he thought was right. So next we're on the road to Meereen, which goes through Volantis, by the way, so that's obviously going to be our next stop, is the big city of Volantis. But Tyrion and Varys are having their little road show, all shoved into a little box and on each other's last nerve. And Tyrion is, of course, depressed, and Varys is, of course, trying to get him to buck up, put on his big boy pants and, get back in the world of the living. And they have this wonderful conversation where Varys says something very interesting to him. He says, no matter what we do, people like me and you are never satisfied for long in the box. And it's a great metaphor, and it's also a direct statement. It's like, yeah, I know you're not happy in this box, and we're not going to have to stay in this box forever. We're going to get out, and we're going to do more. So next we're in King's Landing with Cersei and Dr. Frankenstein Qyburn, and they're looking at a dwarf's head, except it's not Tyrion's. Cersei's disappointed, but she's not fazed by the grossness at all, and she lets Dr. Frankenstein have the head for who knows what, good lord. And that leads us to the small council, and Cersei sits down in the hand seat, and she just thinks she's going to have all kinds of control, and Kevin Lannister is having none of it. Now, from his experience, it totally makes sense that he would discern and say, no, you make really horrible decisions. You cannot be the hand. And you also haven't been chosen by the king. But there's also just a tinge of misogyny there. I know people are going to kill me for using that word, but it's true. This is a very patriarchal society, and one of his arguments against her is that you're a woman, you're the queen regent, that's all you are. You birthed a child that happened to be king, but you're nobody, really. That's what he's saying to her, in addition to the fact that she also makes horrible decisions and that the king really does need to be in there learning how to be a good ruler. So, Kevin makes good points, but let's not pretend like it's all just good logic, because it isn't. Now, did it make me feel good that he dissed Cersei like that? Absolutely, because we all love to hate her. So Cersei's going to be the hand, apparently, the functioning hand, and Qyburn's going to be the master of whisperers, and she makes Mace, who's such an ass kisser. Oh my god. Oh, no wonder his mother despises him. So he's going to be the master of coin and the master of ships. And Cersei wants to make Kevin the master of war, and he refuses and stomps off to Casterly Rock.
Screw that! I'm going home!
So we jump all the way from King's Landing all the way up to the wall, and we see adorable little Shireen teaching Gilly how to read. Then they start talking about grayscale, and apparently 2 of Gilly's sisters had grayscale, which is disturbing. She says they ended up acting like animals, got covered in it and ended up acting like animals. Shireen even said, nobody knows, I don't know how they cured me. So maybe she's not cured, maybe she's just in remission. I don't know. It's just weird. The whole thing's weird. And there has to be a reason. They would not have spent time talking about grayscale without a reason. So Selyse breaks up the little reading party by being an asshole and kicking everybody out and telling Shireen that she cannot trust anybody. She doesn't understand what people will do, the bad things people will do. She's seen her mother and the Red Priestess burn family members, much less strangers, family members burned alive. I think Shireen knows pretty damn well the fucking horrible things people will do. So still at the wall, we have Stannis, and he's fussing at Jon, and the consequences that I thought were going to happen from Stannis aren't really happening, at least not from Stannis. Maybe there will be some consequences different from Melisandre, but instead, Stannis actually goes ahead and offers Jon Winterfell. He wants to make him a Stark, and that's a real fist-pumping moment. Whether you're a book reader or not, you've been waiting for this moment for a while, because you knew all along that Jon wanted to be a Stark, desperately deep in his heart wanted to be a Stark. And now he's got it. He's got the opportunity. And then, boom, we find out he's going to refuse it. This he's going to stick to, and he's right. If he goes to Winterfell and he just turns away from the Night's Watch, nobody in the North will trust him because he violated a very fundamental, important oath. So Jon's right. He's right. It sucks, but he's right. So then we go to the election of the Lord Commander. And Thorne and Janos Slynt are their usual jerky selves. And the speech that Sam gives on behalf of Jon, great speech. I love the way he called Janos Slynt out on his cowardice. Great lines. Then we see Jon winning. He becomes Lord Commander. Now, two things to note, two little spots to note. Ollie looks at Jon really positively and affirmatively when they're talking about his leadership during the battle. But then when Thorne is criticizing him for being kind to the wildlings and, on their behalf, Ollie's looking at him like real concerned. Go to the spoilers. I'll talk about that some more. So we come full circle back to Braavos, where we see Arya hunting pigeons in the streets because she's been sitting out in the rain for about a day or two, so she's pretty damn hungry. And some guys try to steal it from her, and the kindly man, what's known as the kindly man in the books, you don't know his name on the show, he comes and rescues her, and so she follows him back to the House of Black and White. He gives her back her special coin, and then reveals that he is Jaqen H'ghar, except that's not Jaqen H'ghar's real name. We don't know his name. In fact, he says he's no one, and that's who Arya has to become. Now, my question for you is, does anybody in their right mind think that Arya, no matter how hard she tries, can forget that she is Arya Stark? Think about it. She can try all she wants. She's never going to be anybody but Arya Stark. So now we're in Meereen, and that's where we end the show with Dany getting ready to try the son of the Harpies, and it's too late because the slave that's on her small council ends up killing the guy, and then Dany has to kill the slave. And she does it in public execution, and all the former slaves are on one side and the masters are on the other, and it's just a horrible showdown kind of situation. And, I found it really interesting that when she does chop off his head, the way the slaves hiss at her. Now, I know in other cultures, in our world, people hiss their displeasure, but in America, we don't do that. We just don't. When they did that, it seemed really foreign, and it seemed really threatening, really ominous, and it was freaking. It was very effective. The hissing thing was very effective. And so the little riot starts, and then the Unsullied have to scoot her back into the pyramid, and she's shaken, and she's terribly shaken, because she's trying so hard to do the right thing. Kind of like Jon, again, remember their stories are parallel. She's trying so damn hard to do the right thing, and no matter what she does, it's just a clusterfuck. She sends everybody away, and we finally get to see baby Drogon, except Drogon is not a baby anymore. He's a monster. He's huge. He's beautiful, but he's huge. And a lot of people were speculating online, and I agree with the point that Drogon sensed her unease and need that she needed him. And a lot of people are saying, well, why would he sense that? And it's different with the Stark kids. They can sense their wolves and the wolves can sense them. Well, why would it be any different for Dany? They have to have some kind of, beyond the physical connection, they've got to have some kind of mental connection. So I think it's perfectly plausible to suspect that Drogon felt her unease and came to her to comfort her. But then when he got there, he's been running wild, and he doesn't want anybody to tame him. So while he may feel bad for her and want to be there to comfort her, that doesn't mean he wants to be tamed by her and to hang out. So, of course, he flew away. That's it for our brush up on episode 2. Come back next week, and I'll do the brush up for episode 3. Now, if you're waiting for some spoilers, just hang in there another second. Spoilers are coming. Arr! Okay, so let's talk about several spoilers real quick. In the books, House of Black and White was just a temple along a street of hundreds of other temples in a very crowded place. So it's standing on its own just kind of threw me because that's not what I had in my head. But it worked. I mean, it was intimidating. It was hard to get to. It is a place of death. If you read the books, you know this. So I guess it makes sense. And it was a pretty cool building. You have to admit, it's pretty awesome. Littlefinger talking about the marriage proposal that he accepted, his proposal was accepted. We know Littlefinger's not going to marry anybody. The speculation is that Sansa is going to marry somebody, and it's Mr. I've got daddy issues Ramsay. We know also that from Gwen Christie's one of her interviews that she said that Sansa wasn't saying no, she was saying you should go. So Brienne took that as, I'm going to hang out and follow her. And I think that's a good idea. And I think what's going to end up happening is that Brienne's going to follow them to Winterfell. And this time she's going to be used a little bit more subtly, because she really needs to learn to use, not to be so just balls to the walls out all the time. Use a little bit more subterfuge to help Sansa and Theon escape Winterfell. Gilly and the Grayscale. It's my understanding that you could only catch Grayscale through touch. Like, somebody had it, they had to touch you to get it. So how did Gilly's sisters get it? How did they get exposed to Grayscale? So that makes me wonder. It's like, that doesn't seem like it fits book canon. And I know they're spending time on Grayscale for a reason. You know it, I know it. If you've read the books, you know what I'm talking about. So why and who is going to be important? Is it going to be Shireen? Or is it going to be someone from overseas? Because that's where Grayscale comes from, is my understanding. And again, in the books, I don't know, they don't tell you this in the show, but it originates overseas. And I think, and we've talked about it online, that Jorah is going to be the one that gets infected with Grayscale and brings it, an active case of Grayscale, to Westeros. Oh, and another idea, this might be a spoiler too, I think the cure is in Shireen. Shireen is the cure. There's something in Shireen's blood. There's something about her that's special. Some master is going to figure out that she's the solution to solving the Grayscale problem. Who knows? Let's see. Maybe I'm putting too much modern thought into this. Oh, okay. And so the other spoiler is Ollie. Again, during the Lord Commander election, you know, when he's talking about how great Jon was at the battle, he's like, oh, yeah. And then when Thorne is talking about Jon and his predilection for, or liking of wildlings, Ollie's got this kind of look like, So I don't think Ollie's 110% Jon's camp. We don't know who he voted for. He's really young. He's very obviously going to be easily influenced. I mean, he's young, and young people make really stupid, impetuous, impulsive mistakes. And I still think he's going to be the one either to kill Jon, or he's going to be involved in that in some fashion. I just have a really, really bad feeling about that. Anyway, that's all my spoilers for this week. Check with me next week and we'll see what we find out. Talk to you later.